I always wait to see if anybody goes, oh, I'm out of here. I am pinned. He shows up on the recordings, just so you know. But I do name names. So, uh, okay. So let's get comfortable with this body sitting here. Allowing yourself to notice that we're sitting here and let our mind join us. So sometimes we'll look and realize, oh, we're not thinking about being where we are at all. Or thinking, or we're thinking about what we're going to do later. And we forget to notice what we're doing now. So just take a moment to notice what you're doing now. And notice what state of mind arises. Is it curiosity? Is it pleasant? Is it vague? So take it and allow your body to relax. Let your face relax. Area around your eyes soften. The jaw relax. Just let your out breath release any tension. And think about why you showed up this morning. And generate a positive motivation, positive intention to use this time well based on your reason for coming. And combine it with the wish that it'll be a benefit not just to yourself, but it'll ripple out to benefit those around you. So let's recite the four immeasurables. It's in the gold book on page 34. These are the four immeasurable minds. The mind of love, which is focused on others' happiness. The mind of compassion of others and wishing them to be free of it. The mind of joy that wishes joy upon others and is joyful when others are joyful. And the mind of equanimity that doesn't base whatever your preference is, but just on all sentient beings because they suffer. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. Sentient beings and people don't know whether to go or not. Confused everybody because every week I do it slightly differently and I apologize for that. So it's nice to pause after you say the words and try to at least send that energy out to the people you know, the people in the room. So we're sending happiness. And next, may all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. So you might have a person you know with suffering. And send them that heartfelt wish that they were free of it. You can include yourself. You can include. The heart has no boundaries. Next. May also be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. So this is wishing a different kind of happiness. This isn't when suffering ceases. Like when we're hot and we turn on the AC. This is more of an everlasting happiness, a happiness that comes from wisdom, bodhicitta, and the final one. May always abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. This is a training for us. This is sort of the foundation of our practice, is to really let go of this, that only some people are deserving of happiness. Letting go of wishing harm to our people we don't get along with, the people we don't like, who disagree with us, whatever, or doing harm to others. And now let's recite the Refuge and Bodhicitta prayer. It's on page, if you're comfortable with it, 98. 98. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, of beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge. Did I do 3 already? I can't count. Okay. Okay. So what's on your mind today? Have you, did someone speak?
Also grasping and reaching.
Yeah, grasping, reaching. That is true. Why is that a problem?
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. It really is exhausting. You know, it's like, you know, we think that dreaming about what we want, or, you know, all these things are just, you know, kind of pleasant activities, but they're a condition for craving to arise. And then we seek it. And usually what we daydream about is not reachable. It's not seekable, but it's pointless because it doesn't exist like that. So sometimes when we first sit to meditate, we might imagine we're sitting on, you know, in a place that's, you know, on a hillside on a beautiful day where there's a perfect temperature, you know, there's no creepy crawlers, you know, disturbing you, you know, whatever it is, whatever makes you feel safe and pleasant, you know, and that makes sense to want to start that way, that calms our mind down. But what can that interfere with? I always ask weird questions.
It won't last.
What won't last?
The pleasant, everything being pleasant.
Anyway.
False expectations.
Okay, so and what does it do? Yes, it is false expectations, because what is the expectation you're building? That this is the place you need to meditate.
Escape.
You know, well,
That you can't do it yourself.
you can't do it in, yeah, you can't just be safe and peaceful no matter what's going on. I'm sorry. Well, the present moment may be extreme, and we need to know that that's okay. We can handle that. We can handle it because we're working on our minds to not react to circumstances as if they are, you know, the end all and be all of our lives. We don't want to change things we can about those yucky moments. It's just that we really need to see that it's just a moment. And one of the reasons we keep from these yucky moments, you know, is we think happiness can't live there. And that's not true. How can that, how is that, how can, however you form that conversely. So how is it true that you have an extremely yucky moment and happiness? What do you have to do in your mind? You have to let go of thinking, yuck. Yeah, even just the act of judging things kind of starts off in, you know, this.
Build gratitude for the positive side of the coin.
And what would be the positive side of the coin?
You're giving birth, you're in pain, but the positive piece is you have this new living being.
Focusing on what you're perceiving as yucky or painful or whatever. What can you focus on instead?
Joy.
But you're not always giving birth. Well, we are sort of giving birth to, you know, some idea or another, some story or another.
We can just be appreciative for this around and we're not in war, we're not starving, we're whatever it is that we're dealing with might be horrible and we're not used to it.
So what does that take? Developing that kind of attitude, what does that take? Developing the gratitude mind, what does that take? What do all these things take? Practice, a habit of doing it, okay? So that in the moment, we're not overreacting to that moment. It's just another moment, you know? And what do we need to do? What do we need to think about or practice about in order to be able, you know, another moment? What do you do at work? Does everybody love their day every day at work? Does anybody work?
Does anybody work?
You know? So with work, those of you, if you can pull it out of your memory
I talk myself into it
throughout the day,
whenever I need to.
whenever you need to, okay?
Just thinking that it will pass.
It will pass. It's just work, right?
It just goes up and down.
Okay.
Well, it's depressing.
You're
Yeah.
stuck.
How many more hours of this do I have to put up with?
Feels long.
So somebody's not muted. So what's my point? My point is that we have the habit of when anything happens, good or bad, yucky, nice, whatever, it's not helpful. It sets a condition for your next moment of mind. If we can just be, that's the present moment idea. It's not just, you know, it's not going somewhere. You just live this moment. You know, You just pause and choose how to respond to this moment. Because most moments just pass, don't they? But then something happens. First of all, what's the first mistake we make when something happens? Like, what do we react with? What's the first? How about surprise? What do you mean my toothbrush broke? Da, da, da,
Fear and pride as well in the workplace. Everyone around you is reacting with their own fear.
da. That's one thing to always keep in mind, that we're not alone. Everything's interdependent. So having these stories going along, it's all of us in here having a story going on. And wherever we are, there's a story going on with all the people in the room. You know. But we want to start to notice that of response. You know, we might be, you know, we don't think things will change. If we're doing something we've done every day for the past 17 years, you know, we expect it to just go like, you know, like it really hasn't done for 17 years. Really think it has. Something kind of goes a little differently, we tend to be surprised. So we can work on, why should I be surprised? It's different in this moment, because that's actually what life is like, you know, is that it's changing all the time.
Seems like every year I get a new health surprise.
Yeah. And guess what? Your body was aging all year, not just, you know, the day you woke up and this didn't work either, you know. So it's on just pausing. The pausing really helps so much in so many different ways, you know, of just being able to just not go to judgment, not stay in surprise, you know, and we're just not be creating a story about the moment. And we'll find that the moment is so temporary. And that can become a habit of just being comfortable with the change in moment to moment. And so when you meditate or just sit quietly or however you want to call it, you know, one of the things you first notice is that you thought, that's fine. That's what minds do. They think, you know, yeah. But there is space between thoughts. And slowly, we might become aware of that space. You know? But then we also notice our bodies changing in every second. This is a place to practice those things, of just being able, you know, my knee's starting to ache. I'm gonna kind of watch it. Make sure you notice when it stops aching, because it does. It changes the sensation. But if we keep just, my knee hurts, we're feeding it. So our attention just keeps staying, and it's already decided it's pain, and it's permanent pain, you know. So we need to be comfortable with the fact that it's just another changing moment. And sitting quietly and noticing how much change is going on. Our breath changes. You watch the breath and then you realize, oh, I can't find it. And other times you think, I'm having a heart attack. We just, everything's changing. You might have a headache and then you don't have a headache. You're hot, then you're cold. Then it's like unbelievable how much changes. And we want to notice what catches our attention. Those are our patterns. Be pain. It may be time. You keep looking at your watch. Really? 3 seconds have gone by. So these are ways anything can be an opportunity. And one of the things we got to notice change, and then nothing changes much. Just because something changes doesn't mean we have to act on that change. We can choose how to act or not. So when we notice that our mind has suddenly been hooked by something, that now it's like a problem. This change is now a problem. We've now created a story around whatever it is. So we want to look at what our habit is of labeling, what kind of labels we place, and what they mean to us. Some people see problems as opportunities and fun challenges to overcome. My brother was into computers. Both my brothers were into computers, and so my older brother used to, create software and do, and so he loved the problem because it was like another puzzle to figure out, So he developed this jargon around to being these puzzles, and so it gave him a different mood for it. Now, I'm sure when his wife came in and yelled at him for being on the computer too long, he didn't see that quite in the same way. But the point is, we want to be aware of what our patterns of thought are, what's their flavor, what's their, what are we grasping at? What are we judging? What are we doing with all this? And so that we can kind of start letting some of that go. We're not going to be happy in every moment. We're looking for that, not going to happen. We're also not going to be miserable in every moment, even if our circumstances are still difficult. You see kids laughing in war zones. They don't have quite so many stories popping up in their head. And that's a really lousy environment. And it isn't that their circumstances aren't difficult and that their mind can make them not difficult. It isn't that. It's that we do this to ourselves. We create stories that make our life feel like a disaster in one moment, non-disaster in another moment, and we have control over that. So when we, this is where relative truth comes into real handily. So what kind of patterns of mind do you have when things change? And yep.
Sometimes you kind of go into shock and you can't even respond. In terms of a family member.
I don't need the story. Yeah,
well, it's very difficult to handle. I have a friend who's going through the same thing, so you can expect certain behaviors from this person, but when it really hits you, it's like you're surprised, you're shocked, and you can't even respond.
So what do you think your judgment is? I mean, I can tell you what it sounds like to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
How can anybody act like that?
Oh, no. No, I kind of take it back onto myself, like what's wrong with me that I'm even expecting different behavior.
Well, that's what I'm asking about,
Yeah.
is what is the expectation that is the condition for your shock?
Don't know because I have no expectations. of
Oh,
them.
that's
I don't
such-
expect that
that's-
they're gonna act out.
Yeah, that's a lie, Marianne. You're telling yourself that you don't have any expectations. That's not true.
All right.
So you want to let things bubble up, you know, like, what am I grasping after here that I'm so shocked when this is what happens, when this is what appears, you know? So it's important. We need to recognize our part because we're solely responsible for our response, our reaction. Conditions are the, you know, stage in which these things occur. But it's our mind, our habits of mind, our all that stuff that are shaping it. You know? And it's not like we can just never be surprised, although I have some teachers that I think probably are never surprised. You know, but that takes a lot of practice, you know, of just, you know, every time we're surprised, there was an expectation. Every single time. This reflects how we grasp at things to exist in a way that they do not. We do it with ourselves, you know. We do it with others. And so being able to think about it, I mean, just reflecting on the fact that things don't exist the way I hold them to exist gives us a little bit of space or panic, you know, one of the two. Yeah.
I think some of this expectation for everything to go well, you can refer back to when a problem occurs. If I can fix it, let me fix it. If I can't fix it, I need to let it go with grace and not clutter my mind. And
That's a practice.
it's a practice with, especially with
Family.
people.
Yeah, people.
Family.
People, you can't schedule people
Or events that happen.
or events that happen with us or events of any type or any moment.
Right.
One of the expectations I'm trying to break is expecting other people to see things the way that I see them.
Oh yeah, that's a really good one. Seeing things,
Good luck with that.
expecting others to see things the same way you see them,
I mean, if I was wrong, I would admit it.
because your point of view is the only point of view. Isn't that obvious? We're the center of the universe, you know?
Question.
Yeah.
So you're talking about expectations. It also sounds like we're trying to control. Is there a difference between expecting and trying to control?
Well, expectations might be a way of planning out your control. And then when the moment comes, you know, we try to take control, don't we?
So when we're surprised, that's when we have the expectation, and when it's not met, then we try to control. So that it meets the expectation.
And how often do our plans involve a lot of things that really are about control? Who thinks that that isn't true?
Well, if I ruled the world,
Oh, that would be so much better, wouldn't it? But sorry, it's my world that would be better. So if I ruled it. But what ways do we try to control outcomes?
manipulating.
Well, sometimes we manipulate other people to do what we want them to do. But what else do we do? How about how we dress, how we, where we choose to go eat? We make choices all the time. What are we trying to control?
Or suffering and happiness.
You think?
We want-
Suffering and happiness, that ring a bell for anybody?
We want to have a good experience.
And we
And
think
things
part
to
of that,
Facilitate it.
what do we think our control can do with that, do for that?
Brings peace, joy, and happiness. That's what we think.
Bring us peace, joy, and happiness. But we shape that, don't we? It's not just any peace. It's my peace, my joy. So we're going to this restaurant so I can have this food so that I can have this outcome. Why? Why do we, what mistake are we making?
Craving, maybe.
Who said something? Yeah, what did you say?
No, I said maybe the craving of happiness, going to restaurant, eating certain food, so we get that outcome of maybe happiness. And so like craving of that happiness, maybe.
Claiming of the happiness?
Craving.
Craving.
Yeah,
Craving
yeah.
of that, sure. Craving of the happiness kind of directs all our actions. Graciela, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm thinking that I would be thinking that my happiness depends on externals.
Yes. When we're trying to control all these things in our day, that are external to us, that implies that we think all that stuff matters for our state of mind. When we have pretty good conditions, what are we mostly controlling?
That is not under our control, maybe. Trying to control that is not under our control.
That's what we're trying to practice. But generally speaking, people with good conditions spend an awful lot of time doing what? Making sure those conditions are met, because we can. We have good conditions, so that means we can choose what restaurant to go to, what food we eat, to a certain degree. Everybody's all relative, and we keep feeding this mythology that says, we can get what we want when we want it, and exactly how we want it. How many people ask, wait staff, make sure the chef does this, and this, and this, and this. Where does that come from? That ability to do that. It comes from an abundance of resources. Not only do we have, but I mean, like we go into restaurants, we can actually be very specific about what we want. We can't always get it, but we have quite a bit of resources, and we keep trying to make them fit just exactly right. And then we're still suffering, aren't we? Why? How could we possibly be suffering?
We're always something. Different.
Because it's internal, not external.
Well, first of all, because the happiness, getting all this stuff doesn't equal happiness. Secondly, it doesn't give us any training on what to do when we're not getting what we want. If we keep chasing all day long, let me make sure, like, oh, and sometimes we actually have a conscious thought that says, well, since my day, I don't have any control over, my boss, I'm going to have control over my lunch, And so that, we just, kind of reward ourselves, for that, because we keep thinking that it's all external to us. Instead of thinking about what is interfering with my contentment. What am I thinking that's helping produce that? And the Buddha said one of the main things we get wrong is that we think things exist the way they appear to us to exist. We think that everybody thinks like we do, or they should. We're seeing, we have this binocular vision, and we adjust it to our perspective. And what happens?
We just make ourselves upset.
Well, and nobody else has the same pair of binoculars, So that interactive aspect of our day throws, wrenches in it constantly, or a spanner in the works, depending on where you're from. And we fight that. We spend an awful lot of the day resisting what's happening. And that resistance is suffering. So as soon as we think, yucky, we're going in a direction of unpleasantness. And unpleasantness was the condition probably for that judgment to arise. So being able to think, to practice thinking, how could this look differently to me? So you kind of notice, when you notice the patterns in your head, in the way you think, you want to look at those patterns and say, this pattern seems to give me a lot of trouble. When this mind arises, I'm generally not happy. So you want to look if you can dismantle that state of mind. Use your skill and reasoning to say, maybe I don't want to go there. Maybe that mind's not helpful. It doesn't actually help me. It doesn't help the problem solving aspect of whatever. It doesn't help me tolerate this meeting. It doesn't help me, tolerate the drive home in rush hour traffic. So what can I do differently? Because it's really about how you think. What's one of the conditions of having good resources that can become an obstacle? What happens over time when you have lots of resources and you continue to have lots of good resources and you continue to have lots of good resources?
Like it's you see with a lot of multiple generations, trust, etc. The moral character will start to degrade over the course of time, start to lose empathy.
Well, they do.
Oftentimes, struggle is the crucible of character, and they don't have that struggle and don't have the character. They see multiple generations.
Yeah.
Trust.
Okay. So what is the state of mind that arises in people who say that happens to?
a complacency, sense of
How about
entitlement?
entitlement?
Yeah, yeah.
We all have good conditions compared to a lot of the world. And what do they see in us often? A sense of entitlement. You know? So it's not just that we feel like I want to have what I have or what I want to get that what I want. We think I'm entitled to it. You know? Like you can be stuck in a traffic jam and there's a part of your mind thinking, I don't deserve this.
Huh.
My time's valuable. You know, I can't be here wasting my time. We want to look for I mean, these are the, I'm using examples of, like probably none of us are in that situation, but you want to notice when your mind is going there, that you're not happy because you're resisting what is, and you think, hey, I don't deserve what is. So that's one form of resistance. And karma, of course, teaches it, sorry, you're wrong. You set up the cause for this. Here it is, ripening, and now you're unhappy about it. Geshe Gelek used to talk about how, this is a teacher in North Carolina, how it was so interesting to him how, because he didn't have a credit card at the monastery in India, right? So he comes to the US and people have credit cards. And then what do the people do? They complain when they get the bill. He was just like, what are you complaining about? You got all this stuff that you chose to get, and you didn't even have to pay for it at the time. And then when the bill comes up, you act like, whoa, this isn't right. There's actually almost no words that I have for that reaction. It's like a very interesting circumstance. And we do it all the time with all kinds of things, because we're grasping at things to exist in a way they do not. Like that credit card bill's probably full of things that you thought would bring you happiness and didn't. So you got cheated. And it's the stuff's fault. And if Amazon just didn't exist, most of us would be richer, not just the owner of Amazon. So we really want to spend time thinking about how it's our thinking that keeps bumping us into a lot of trouble. So we want to notice that craving and grasping mind, that moment that, desire arises, and then what do we impute on desire? I'm sorry. Outcomes. And what is the flavor of that outcome? Delicious. Satisfaction. And usually we add a layer, well, depending, but we can also include a layer of gotta have it. Now we've gone into grasping. So it's, and it really, we go to leap from desire to gotta have it pretty quickly in our mind. Not if we're busy, perhaps, but if we're, busy but bored, we probably have a lot of those kinds of thoughts. And this is that trap when just, desire arises. And the desire can also be, when am I going to get out of this place? When is 5 o'clock coming? whatever. I mean, that can also be the desire. And then you make yourself miserable from that moment to the time that 5 o'clock comes. And then you complain because there's traffic, because everybody is leaving their offices exactly at the same time. Or in Florida, it seems like there's just always traffic. So. When do these problems tend to arise? Problems of mind.
When we wake up.
I had the same thought. When don't they?
And sometimes while I'm asleep.
So we have an opportunity from the moment we wake up. It's very interesting to experiment with things like, you know, like I used to say a verse every morning when I'd wake up, you know, and see if saying something that inspires you or motivates you or whatever changes your experience. And I found that it really did. You know, so I used to say a verse that says, oh, another brand new day, another 24 hours to treat others with compassion. Yay. And I just would recite that every morning. You know, really changed my attitude for many reasons. One is I wasn't thinking about me. I wasn't making the day about me. It's amazing what letting go of me and mine can do for your happiness. So it helps to practice something different. Instead of waking up and thinking about, you know, work, whatever it is you usually think about. Oh, am I late for work? Am I on time? Are the kids ready? You know, whatever. I mean, I don't know what your day is like, but you know, you can actually use that moment of waking up as the time to set your motivation. And you can make it really positive. Like, ooh, I'm happy about this day. I always say, ooh, another brand, because I can picture Thich Nhat Hanh saying that, you know, because he would say things like, you know, oh, hello, friend. So greeting the day with, oh, yay. You know, you'll have time to notice all the things that hurt and don't work and later, you know, but starting the day with just, wow, I'm alive still. You know, and I have the same, and I've remembered the same motivation that the purpose of my life is to help others be happy. You know?
And it's amazing how much more that makes me happy than all those other things, like buying on credit cards.
Yeah. You know, and it's really interesting how we can actually direct our minds like that. It takes practice. It takes remembering to do it. It takes remembering to do it again. And so what happens is, and then, you know, 3 hours later, you know, you're about to curse somebody out for, you know, giving you the wrong change. So, you know, you can all of a sudden remember, oh, that's right. I can have compassion instead. You know, it just helps because you kind of can laugh at yourself, or at least I can laugh at myself a lot. But it's that remembering that it's not about getting the right change or getting anything. It's about how we can create happiness in our interactions. We can create, goodness in our interactions and in our moments. When we're alone, we can do it with our minds. When we're with others, we can do it with our body, speech, and mind. But if we direct ourselves in that way, again and again throughout the day, you have to find something that means something to you, about others, another, 24 hours to make those I love know how much I care about them. We have, so you have to have a hook that works for you. Yes, Graciela.
You had mentioned that when we have expectations, if it doesn't go our way, we can either be surprised or panicked.
No, I threw in panic because.
No, I like because so I can think what to do with surprise, but I find it to be true. What do you do with panic? I don't know what to do.
You wait. We really need to wait. If fear arises, we really need to give ourselves space, unless literally we are in danger, then we need to act. We can usually tell the difference, So it's that recognizing I can't trust myself in this mind. My action will be entirely influenced by this state of mind. Like when we're angry, So I have to pause and proceed cautiously. And sometimes you have to say, like if it's a conversation, you can consider saying something like, I'm going to have to think about that, and stop the discussion. Because you can't, you're the state of mind that's arisen is not going to allow reasoning to be there. It's not going to allow, you don't feel safe. So wisdom's not going to arise.
That will be applicable also when we are in danger. Actually, probably even more so.
Well, yes, when we're actually in danger, we certainly want to have a pause to be able to say, what do I need to do? So that we can, using what we know about how to be safe, it's like when you drive, it's like suddenly you realize, oh, I've got to get out of the way here, But we don't make that moment in the moment of fear or panic or whatever is not the same moment we're having when we're using decision making. It's a different state of mind. And our mind's like this. And those are 65, 65, 65, 65, 65, 65 thoughts. It works really, really fast. And so we want to encourage it to not act on that first moment of fear or panic or anger or jealousy or greed. So we train ourselves to pause and choose. Does that make sense? Like for me, since I panic and I'm anxious a lot and all that kind of stuff, I've learned to not listen. I mean, if I listened to my anxiety, I would never leave my house. And I'm not kidding. I never want to go anywhere. I never want to come to class. I never want to do anything. And anytime I make plans, it's like, oh, why did I make a plan? you know, it's a habit I have. It's a very, very strong habit I have, you know, so I just don't listen anymore because it's not true. And I don't even know how to make sense of that because I'm sitting there going, I don't want to go, you know, and it's not true. You know, I mean, going doesn't change the fact that, you know, like the fact that I have a moment of thinking I don't want to go does not affect what actually happens if I go. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So I don't have to listen to it. It's wrong. Partly because I'm not really in danger. That anxiety, whatever is provoking it, mostly habit. So, but that ability to pause and choose, am I going to listen to this or not listen to this? We have to practice it. We have to pay attention to how we're thinking and then be able to go, wait a minute, have I made up a story here? Or am I about to make up a story here? Or I am making up a story here. I do that all the time. And I realize I'm making up a story. I'm just filling in the gaps because I don't know. And I don't like not knowing. So I'd rather have a story that makes some sort of sense to me. You know, the trouble is it's not based in any shape or form on reality. It's just something you're making up based on your habits, your preferences, your, you know, experiences or whatever. How many times have you thought in your life, I know what they're thinking? Well, that's a lie. It's a lie. We tell ourselves lies all the time. So what's the point of it? Wait and find out. No. That's the trouble with going yuck. Is we are conditioning ourselves to have things unfold in a certain way. Whereas if we just have equanimity towards whatever is happening, you know, then we just respond according to whatever is happening. You know, we're not going, I shouldn't have to respond to this, or if this person would just leave my life, I'd be better, you know. We don't have to go to trying to control things. We just choose how to respond to the situation, the moment. So when a thought comes up in your head that goes, yucky, yuck, you can actually think to yourself, I'm not following that thought. That's not helpful. You know. So all of this is really sounds really simple. I mean, it really is simple. It's just we don't do this. We go into story making. We go into kind of disappointment that we didn't get what we want instead of, you know, some other attitude. Because we make ourselves miserable, or we make ourselves unrealistically happy. When we give into our cravings for things that we like, meaning external things that we like, we're constantly going, oh, I was right. This is really, really good. Or we'll go, wow, I don't remember it being like this. What does that tell you? What does that scream?
Emptiness.
I don't remember the things being like this.
Denial.
We think everything stays the same. You know, oh, if I liked it this time, I'll like it equally as much this time. I'll like it equally as much as this time. I'll like it equal. How's that worked out for you?
It exposes your lens. Like if you go back to visit your kindergarten
Right.
building,
Right.
you didn't see it that way back then, but now you see everything's little.
Can you believe the
I
size of
see
the
it that
chairs
way.
and the desk? I think it's hilarious that we had little chairs and little
Yeah.
desks. You know,
We were little.
I know, but it just seemed like they were just the right size. I had a thought this morning about someone I knew in high school, somebody I dated in high school, and I just thought, I'm going to look that person up. He's dead. He died a year ago. But he used his high school yearbook picture. The obituary, whoever put the obituary up used his high school picture. So he looked exactly like I remember. And it was just like, oh, I know him. And he's dead. Okay, that's great. So, you know. And he was still a Republican. He was a Buckley. What should I expect? You know, do you remember William F. Buckley? He was his nephew. He had a MAGA license plate on his red truck, apparently. Yeah, that must have been interesting. Anyway, he's one of the funniest people I've ever known. And that was in the obituary. Really funny. So that didn't change. But we see things and we want to grasp at them. Oh, he was like, I remember. You know, like that is any relation to fact. Yeah.
Maybe because we also attach ourselves of identity to the things. And so if they change, we change.
So if they change, we'll change. Well,
Something like that.
certainly we think that if they change, our life changes. You know, it's like when we're shocked that our partner is like different than when we thought, you know. But we do, we wrap our identity in the stories we make up. That's true. To no purpose.
It's all an illusion. You look back at the castles in Europe and you think, that's it. But
You
back
think
in
about all the
day,
suffering that wasn't
luxury.
there.
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
I loved it. I went to England one time and I was in some castle type thing, you know, and there was a hole in the floor in that room and a little sign that said, this is where the owner of the house, whatever it was, you know, would just push people he didn't like in and they just died there.
Oh, jeez.
Yay. I bet that didn't make him any happier.
Suddenly didn't make
Yeah, nobody wins. But this is the irony. There's a part of us who believe if I could just get rid of all the people that just irritate me, you know, my life would be better.
see it.
Really? You think?
Well, not easy. But better.
It might actually work. What happens if you just get rid of them,
Get rid of what?
the people that you don't like, by pushing them down the hole?
Not good.
Well, yeah, we know that, but
But you can set boundaries.
Sorry. There's always gonna be the next one.
it's going to be the next one.
It's inside of us, no?
And in fact, you notice that the more irritable you are, the more irritable you get. So like, you know, the line that caused you to push one person in the hole, it's probably a shorter line for the next person.
I was gonna just kind of link something you shared earlier, you had about people who were, you know, wealthy over multiple periods of time, have a sense of entitlement, and that entitlement, those resources could actually be to the detriment.
No, the entitlement, not the resources.
Or don't the resources can lead to entitlement?
No, that's a state of mind. Resources have nothing to do with it.
And
It's our interpretation of resources. It's our doing.
Right, right. And kind of like the corollary, I was just thinking with the castles is that those people who were in charge, you know, the king or the queen, whoever would do that, if they didn't have all those resources and hence the sense of entitlement, they would probably never act in that morally.
Oh, because people who have no resources don't murder other people.
No, but that's not.
Well, yeah, so that doesn't hold up.
Well, I don't know. I haven't explained it completely yet. And the same thing with slavery as well, like that institution of slavery.
We can't blame resources for that. It's the fact that
resources.
we saw people as resources that could happen. You can't, it's not the people, just because there are a bunch of people living in Africa and we own boats and we had bigger guns that, but we saw these people as not people, as resources for us to use
And it's
for free.
grasping it's not the resource then, it's the grasping. of
It's the
resource.
attitude of mind that says, I want that and I will identify it how I want to so I can use it the way I want to use it. Everything about it is all about, well, how can I take this situation to my best advantage? And we just make up stories. So we make up stories that this group of people over here aren't worth much. So, we can use them any way we want to because we can take them by force. I mean, this is what we do. And we do it in big ways and we do it in little ways. My happiness depends on getting what I want. So if I suggest this restaurant instead of that restaurant, or if I mention that, oh, I don't know, I think it's probably crowded at that restaurant at this time of day, let's go here instead. We're still, saying what I want is more important than what others want. So the resources are what cause the entitlement. It's our attitude about resources that cause entitlement. It's our misunderstanding of resources. It's our whole manipulation of everything. I'm the center of the universe, so everything that exists is for me.
I can also put my self-worth as a person depending on how many resources I have.
Oh, we can do all sorts of things. We make up stories about everything. So having a lot of resources shows I deserve it.
And it can also be the flip side of the coin that you can, cancer research, world hunger, so many other things that these resources can be used for.
Yep.
If the mindset.
If the mind chooses to do that. See, that's what it is. It's not the thing. It's the way we're thinking about the thing. And the Buddha said, we're kind of in trouble because the very first thought we have is self and other. So we do everything we can, and that our happiness depends on taking care of self. And this is sort of evolves when we're babies, because at first babies think that the world is part of them. I don't know how long that lasts. Because they were in their mother's womb. And so they just, there was no separation. So whatever happened to the mom was part of their being. So it takes a while to have that sense of other, of self, for that matter. But boy, we go for it. So recognizing that nothing is more than a condition for our states of mind to arise. But it's our interpretation of those conditions that determines how we, and we misjudge them constantly because we think my source of happiness is outside of me.
So
Yeah. And if I suffer, it's their fault. And of course, it doesn't help. One of the reasons we fall prey to this, is if someone slugs you, it might hurt. And then you can really reasonably say, I hurt because you slugged me. That's true. So our physical experiences are very interdependent on the conditions, right? What do we do when someone punches us in terms of our mind? What might we think? What are different scenarios about what let me think? Mm-hmm. So is that protective or just revenge? I'm sorry.
Automatic response.
Yeah, reflex.
Yeah.
Reflexes are things we practice for a very long time. We just give them the name reflex.
To have it.
It's a habit. But what do we think, like, what would perhaps a therapist say if their patient punched them?
Why
Well,
did
I
you
mean,
do
in their
that?
mind.
Why did you do that to me?
You think? Okay, maybe that's what they'd say. What's another possibility of what they might think?
You're
I'm sorry?
Look for another therapist.
You're the
Not
therapist.
therapist is thinking, you look for another therapist. I don't want you to punch.
What else might they be thinking?
They might be thinking this person is really angry at me.
Is directing anger on me.
This person
Yes.
is suffering and out of control.
Yes, it may not be about,
What did I do to cause
it's
this?
why is this person doing this from their past? They're acting out, and there could be some hurt in their past.
Is it necessary for them to take it personally?
No.
No.
No, not even a little bit. Why is that reasonable in that context?
The therapist triggers on the patient.
It's the therapist,
They trigger.
they trigger that response of the
they
patient.
trigger
Okay.
things inside
What's
of
another what, even if you ignore things like transference or whatever, what's the main difference between when we get punched just as a person walking down the street? Not that any of us can really imagine this, but as opposed to the therapist getting punched in their office by a patient.
Well, if we're punched in the street, it's pretty random. If we're punched by a client.
What makes that difference?
The therapist may understand the complex psychological.
What makes that difference?
The professional
relationship.
relationship.
It's
that-
the mind of the therapist, right? They are evaluating the context of all these things that are happening within within this mindset. People come to me because they're in trouble mentally, and I'm helping them, and and whatever. I mean, but it's we've set up a particular set of rules around that, right? And expectations.
How can I still help this person regardless?
Let's hope so. Now, we can walk around with that attitude all the time. No. You mean I can walk around and just think, I'm surrounded by people who are suffering. And who knows how they're going to act. That's a choice to think that way.
The therapist got paid for it though.
Well, that just is a bonus. Nobody pays you enough to get,
Yeah, exactly.
you have to go to the boxing ring for that. So
That person may also not have the intention in the sense that they don't understand what they're doing.
oh, I bet nobody does. You see, this is what's interesting. All the things that we can apply to someone who is in a state that is conventionally recognized as not a good mental place applies to everybody on the planet. But we like to think that we're not that. Mama Yeshe used to say, oh, everybody's insane. It's just a matter of degree. Because we're all wrong about how things exist.
Yes.
And we all think that taking care of me and mine is the way to be happy when it's not. It's cherishing all those others.
So difficult.
Oh, it is difficult because we're in the habit of thinking we are in danger from all those others.
Yes.
you know. And I don't know whether it's different in countries where the culture is communal. So you remember how, those of you who are old, when you were young, like the whole neighborhood knew who you were.
Yeah.
And if you did something you weren't supposed to do, you know, your parents probably would get a call, you know, and so the whole neighborhood kind of took care, which meant two things. That if something happened, like I got my head stuck in between two rails on a fence.
Oh my God, I did that too.
Yeah. You know, you're just curious. Oh, you know, but how does it get stuck? I don't really get that. But anyway, but thank goodness somebody else's, you know, parent, you know, got me out of that. So, you know, I mean, this is where you just consider everybody as part of your family, neighborhood, community, da 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 da. Well, we cut our borders much smaller now, right?
How
So
do you get over that mistrust of others?
it isn't really about trust or mistrust. It's understanding we're all in the same boat. And you know, and so we have to, you know, we cut each other some slack, first of all. You know, instead of thinking that I'm going to begin from a place of distrust, we could consider beginning from a place of trust. You know, that doesn't mean we have to be stupid. It just means that we don't become upside down pots, you know, where nothing can go in because we've already decided. You know, and that's also a practice. We have to feel safe. That is a good condition, but we have to also recognize where it's our mind making us unsafe, not the actual circumstance. Because I would say probably 100% of my anxiety as an adult is self-generated. Nothing to do with anything else. You know, so we have to be aware of that. You know, or at least put it this way, it is helpful to be aware of that because you suffer less. You know, it's like when you know, when you think about how many people in the world aren't in prison, I bet you it's more than people who are. You know, it's like we promote all these things in the news about how, you know, dangerous our country is, when actually all the numbers show we're getting less and less violent. You know, it's just not true. It's just a lie, you know, that we tell each other in order to be able to control the people we don't like. You know, 3 strikes and you're out. You know, so we want to, you know, we want to get much more sophisticated with looking at how we think and recognizing I've made up a story there. Or why do I even think that? I'm just, you know, repeating something I heard and I don't have any clue if it's true. You know, or why would I think it's good to think this way rather than that way? You know, we really want to bring our wisdom into examining how we think, and we want to examine how we think because our source of suffering is there. Our source of happiness is there. Because we can't control the external stuff. You know, accepting that is something we can do. And accepting that we can help ourselves by watching how we think and retraining ourselves to think in ways that bring more happiness and reduce our suffering. And one of them is this, you know, grasping at things as, you know, they're supposed to be this way, not that way. They're supposed to be like this, not that, you know, really understanding how much our expectations and our grasping at permanence, our grasping at I'm the center of the universe, all those kinds of grasping are not helping. No. Elaine, do you still have a question?
It just, I forgot the original question, but another one came up. So basically, it's like people, everybody is just all busy all day projecting their own stories. So then you
Yeah.
gotta wonder, what is the real story? Is there a real story?
No, it's just a series of moments. There's nobody out here being able to go, oh, they got it wrong. There isn't. It's all relative. This is what relative truth is. I mean, it's all depends on perspective, history, da 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 da. I mean, even where you're standing in the room, so
But I mean, there
there
has to be a certain amount of agreed reality, otherwise you're
there
psychotic.
is. That's called conventional truth. It's what we agree to by convention.
Okay.
Yes,
Good. How much history has been rewritten already, though, now? It's interesting.
all of history
Yeah.
is someone's point of view. That's all it is. And that's all it really can be. So we have to deal with that. We have to, but we need to know that. This is a particular point of view. It doesn't make it the view. There is no the view. But there gotta be. Anyway, all right, let's say prayers. So rejoice that you set a motivation in the beginning. You had good intentions. I lost my thing. I'm having techno. I really am capable of this.
No.
Go to wait a minute. I'm on it. There we go. That's one part. Where's the Zoom part? I lost my Zoom window. Oh, there it is. It's magic. Da da da. I love it when I'm semi-competent.
It's also on page 46 in the book.
So now we're just dedicating whatever merits, in every moment that we've been in here, every moment our mind exists, we're placing imprints on our mind, and some of those are positive and they'll have positive results. And we're just making the wish that they benefit others. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creatures suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments, whatever diseases there are in the world. May they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, sentient beings remain. Until then, may I too remain to dispel the misery of the world. So then we read the long life prayer for His Holiness on page 244. And the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chinrezi, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And then page 234, is that right? Okay. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones. Brahmas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losam father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands. Please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Okay, well, thank you all for showing up and participating and all that good stuff. On April 14th, which is a Saturday, we're going to have a practice in the morning from like 9:30 to 12 for, that's the anniversary of Lama Zopa Rinpoche's passing. We're going to do prayers to, you know, that are supposed to benefit us in recognizing his reincarnation. So, and it's considered really important for students to do this on the anniversary, you know, to make offerings, make, you know, say prayers. So you'll hear more about it, but it'll be Saturday, April 14th. So Karma continues on Thursday night. Chair Yoga on Tuesday nights at 6. Anything else? There's a Medicine Buddha Puja coming up, I think, on the 24th of March. It's a Monday, I think.
Sunday, 14th of April.
I'm sorry.
The 14th of April is Sunday.
Okay, but that's not right. So I think we'll do it on Saturday. I'm going to check on that. Everybody just ignore that and look out for the calendar. When in doubt, it may have been April 13th. So yeah, we'll just have to figure that out. Okay. Is there
Sound healing this month?
sound? That's the word I'm looking for. Next month. Okay. So April. All right. All right. Thank y'all. Have a good week. Set a good motivation.
Thank you so much,
Take care.
Venerable.
Thank you, Venerable Tendrin. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Good to see you.
Venerable.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank
Bye, everyone.
you.
Thank you, Venerable.